Thank you so much to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. Do you remember those beaded lizards that everyone made as a child? Most likely, like, this was something you made at summer camp and then you proudly keychained it to your backpack. Well, this insane artist, Jeff Rubio, decided to make them from clay. And big. Jeff Rubio is a sculptor from Philadelphia that is blowing my mind with his insane creations. And for this week's Steal Like an Artist video, I decided to try to make my own. Scared to get started with this project. So for this project, it requires 59 beads exactly. I should definitely make some more because I'm sure I'm going to have problems with cracking or the glaze isn't gonna be right or whatever. So it's gonna be a lot of beads. I've never made a giant bead before, so I have no idea if this is gonna be enough. I'm also thinking about like the proportions, like it should be the same height as width, but let's see how much I can get through today. I won't be surprised if this project gets extended into the next days. It looks good, but it's 11 centimeters wide and only 8 centimeters tall, 8.5, which I feel like we want them to be square, so it sort of like is like a grid to get the proportions right. Next time I'm gonna try and make it a little bit more narrow. This one's taller, but it's also wider. And I'm not so sure about the shape. This is just going to be a bunch of trial and error trying to get this right, which means I'm gonna be throwing a lot more than 59. Okay friends, I've got good news and I've got bad news. The bad news is I haven't finished, but the good news is I've thrown 31, which I'm pretty happy with. I'm halfway through, do the other half tomorrow. The bad news is that I actually threw some with the wrong clay. The good news is that it was the first pieces I did, so I'm gonna squash a bunch of those anyway, or maybe I should use them as glaze testers, but they're not the final pieces anyway, so that's fine. Visually, you shouldn't see a difference, but the clay that I wasn't supposed to use, it has less grog in it, so I'm a little worried that they're gonna shrink more than the beads that have grog in it. I don't know, I'll just, the ones that I'm not gonna squish, I'm going to just carry through to the end, and we're gonna have a lot of extra beads, hopefully about 10 extra beads, so we can choose which ones are the nice ones. That's the idea. I'm happy with this. It definitely, like, it took a few to get in the zone, and then I'm happy with how similar they are. I don't think I could get them any more similar, so I'm happy with this. I know that the artist Jeff Rubio, he eventually switched over into casting them, which is smart, of course. But I'm not planning on making 100 of these lizards. I'm literally just going to make one. So we're just gonna soldier on through. I'm gonna keep throwing these tomorrow. Maybe I can start trimming them tomorrow as well. We'll see if we can get to that 59 beads number. We're at 31, so we should manage. We're about 35, 36, 37 beads in now, and I sort of got it down to a science, so I thought I would share it with you. I center it a little bit taller than I normally would, and then I'm gonna make the hole. I'm just gonna push down as wide as these two fingers, straight down until I touch the wheel head, okay? And normally you would then open it up, but we're not gonna open it up. I'm gonna go about 1 centimeter out from the hole and make the cavity of the bead, like it's hollow, right? And I'm gonna push down until I'm about 1 centimeter from the bottom, because obviously we don't wanna poke through, but I do wanna give myself a little bit of flexibility there to like trim it. So now we're gonna throw up the middle part. For the bottom half of it, I really only get one go, so I'm gonna be a little aggressive, and then I'm gonna lighten off as I get to the top. And this is because at this point it's too tall. I have pretty small fingers. Maybe if you have longer fingers, you can reach, but now I can only reach halfway down. So I got it wet again, and I'm gonna throw from the middle up, just to thin that out a little bit more. You have to be careful to not have too much friction here because you can kind of torque you can torque it because it's so thin and it's fragile at this point. So this is our final height. We're gonna move to the outside. Now I'm gonna try and do this in 2 pulls. And I'm pulling straight up. So normally I would add water like this to the edge here, but I'm trying to minimize the amount of water that gets trapped on the inside. There's just a tiny bit on the inside right now. So what I'm doing instead is I'm just grabbing some water from my dish, and as long as my fingers are wet here, it should be fine. I'm just trying to keep it as straight as possible. It's okay if it's a little off. I'm gonna get my hands wet and I'm gonna collar in the outside, basically as much as it'll go. Something like that. Okay, and now they're quite close together. I don't know how important scoring is here, but I'm just doing it. And now this is the hard part because you need to push this in and pull this out at the same time. So what I figured is I can use my fingers up here to pull it out while my thumbs sort of push it in. So it's sort of like a pinching motion. And you're just slowly pushing them together. And you're kind of pushing down at the same time. I hope I explained that okay. Okay, and now our bead is all misshapen and wonky as heck, but that's fine because now we're gonna actually shape it. What I'm looking for is like a fairly straight wall and then an even curve all the way up. But as I'm doing that, I need to keep an eye on my rim because it's happened to me before where they split again, like the 2 sides, because air is trapped right now, right? So we need the air, we're basically pushing against the air. We're going to cut off a bunch of that clay, kind of cutting inward. And removing all that extra clay. Take a little break to talk about today's sponsor, Squarespace. If you've never heard about Squarespace before, they are an all-in-one website platform that artists and entrepreneurs use to stand out online. I've personally been using Squarespace ever since I started my online business, and I'm still using them for my website today. There are a few things that I love about Squarespace, one of which is their online store, where you can sell pretty much anything: physical goods, online classes, services, and even memberships. 2, they just launched a really cool AI feature called Squarespace Blueprint that makes setting up your website, tailoring your brand, and optimizing for SEO even easier. And 3, once you have that online store set up, Squarespace offers really flexible payment options. So your customers have a seamless ordering experience using PayPal, credit cards, Apple Pay, or even Afterpay. So if you're ready to take selling your pottery to the next level, or you're just looking for an online home for your art, I really recommend Squarespace because they make making your own personal website really easy. So head to squarespace.com right now for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/potterytothepeople for 10% off your very first website or domain. Now let's get back to the video. Okay, well, that took a little longer than I anticipated. It took me 3 days to throw all these, and I think I have something like 65 beads. So now it's time to trim, and we'll see how many I can get through today. The goal is to make them as round and regular as possible. The side I would like to be more or less flat with a really smooth curve on each side. I don't think I've ever gone through so much clay so fast as I have in this project. I went through 7 bags of clay, 70 kilo. It's insane. I want to time the next one to see how long this is all going to take me. From clean wheelhead to clean wheelhead. That was perfect. 5 minutes. Okay, 34. I've got 34 left to do today. It's 170 minutes. Almost 3 hours. These are a little bit dry, which is why it took me a little bit longer. So I'm gonna spritz them with some water. And maybe it won't come off center so much. Okay, update time. It's the next day, by the way. I've been trimming for the last 2 hours and I'm almost done. All I have left are these guys. So I am marking on the inside, just a tiny little dash to show which side's the bottom, so I can make sure that the bottom is facing up when it's drying. Because it's thicker, it's also been covered with clay for longer, so it's wetter than the top. So I'm hoping that by doing this, it's going to avoid cracking. I fully expected this project to be done just throwing the beads on Thursday. It's Sunday right now, so it's taken hell of a lot longer to make all of these than I anticipated. Like, I'm guessing I have about an hour left. I understand why the original artist, Jeff Rubio, he casts them, because not only is that going to speed up the whole process, but they don't all look the same, you know? Like, this one's on the narrow side, this one's on the fatter side. You can't really tell the differences between the individual parts. It kind of fades away and you just see the piece as a whole. But sometimes with pieces like this, all you can see are the mistakes. Like, if things don't align perfectly, all you can see are the irregularities. And I don't know what this project is going to be. It might be fine and it might be terrible. It might just really draw a lot of attention to the irregularities. Regardless, like, this is the best that I can do. So it's gonna be fine no matter what. It's definitely gonna look handmade, but that's the point. We're freaking done. Thank God. I'm so over making these. This was, I don't know if I would have started this project if I knew how long this was gonna take. Now that I see them all together, they all look very different. We'll see. I'm gonna let these dry out. Some of these that I trimmed today, I'm gonna slow dry them under cloth for 1 day, and then I'll remove the cloth, fire them in the kiln. Yeah, I'll see you for the glazing, I guess. Okay, so it's been about a week since I last checked in, and all of the beads are bisqued. They look good, they look good. I had maybe 3 cracking issues out of all of these, so I'm really happy. I managed to do it in 3 kiln loads, and right now I'm just unloading some tests. I did some tests on the ones that cracked a little bit, and this, I'm thinking, is gonna be the main color. I'll talk more about the glazes I'm using in a second, but I really wanna see. Ooh, what do we think? This is the color combination I'm thinking about. I don't wanna make it too vibrant because it's gonna be massive. And I do wanna keep this as a piece of art on my wall. I wanted to like elevate it a little bit. So I'm using these kind of muted colors, and then with them, I'm gonna do a black just for the eyes. So it's gonna be like these colors. The lighting in here is terrible. Like, I know that these colors aren't picking up very well on camera. I tested a bunch of different dippings with these 3, but they're all pretty much the same. This last one maybe is the best, and that's where I double dipped it. But is the subtlety worth the extra effort? I'm not sure. What I really wanted to show you was these guys that I made. I was trying to figure out how to glaze these guys the simplest, easiest way, because obviously there's so many of them. This is actually the leftovers from my birdhouse, if you saw. So just a little round piece with a little rectangle piece at the bottom. And then with this, I can easily dip it like this. And we're going to wipe the bottoms away anyway so that they can sit in the kiln. What was important is that the stick is narrow enough so that it's not touching any of the insides either, hopefully. Some of them are more narrow than others. What I think I'm going to do is just kind of make a factory. I'm going to get all of these glazed. It's going to take several kiln loads. I'm thinking 4 kiln loads. So yeah, let's do it. For the main body, I'm going to use this amazing yellow. This yellow is from Bots. It's their citrine galb. I'm obsessed with this glaze. You saw me use it in a recent video where I took paint on glazes and made it into dippable glazes. So Bots only makes paint on glazes, but I usually like to dip my glazes. And I show you exactly how to transform paint on glazes into dippable glazes in a video that I recently did in collaboration with Bots. I'll link it up here somewhere. Okay, so I made 2 so that I can do this efficiently. It's like dipping caramel apples, except that the caramel apples would like to float. So with this Steal Like an Artist videos, I always feel the need to do a little disclaimer about copying another artist's work. With this series, I'm really not like trying to, even though it's called Steal, I'm not really trying to go for another artist's brand or pretend that I'm making his work in any way. Definitely not. All credit goes to the original artist. I'm going to have all his information linked down below in the description, so please go check him out. You can buy his work. He's got exhibitions. He's awesome. So I do need to wipe one side. Jeff Rubio wipes both sides. One reason to wipe both sides is you're being really transparent about how there's this design feature here. There's one side that is not having the glaze. But I think it would be really nice to have the ends glazed. It's also more work to wipe both sides. So I think I'm gonna just wipe one side. If you're not sure exactly where to wipe, because this is a continuous curve, so it's kind of hard to figure it out. So what you can do is just soak a towel in some water and then make sure your hands are dry before you touch the glazed pieces. And then do some of this action. You know, you might have to do it a few times to get all the glaze off, especially with these Bots glazes because they're quite sticky, which is good because then they don't come off on your fingers. And then you can see a nice even circle. I really, really, really need to implement some organization, and I'm thinking about doing a video about it, how I transform this space. Let me know if I should do that. Otherwise, I'm just gonna do it behind the scenes. Oh, another thing that I learned while doing this is that you can set one so that the glaze starts to get really wet, and then it wipes easier. So you have to do less of these. It took 3 bisques and 3 glaze fires to fire all these, and I'm quite happy with how they look. I'm really curious to see how giant this lizard ends up being. I don't know how long it's going to be. Hopefully it fits on this table. I got some rope here. This is 4mm rope. It's not ideal. I wish I had 8mm rope. I took the beads to the fabric store and they had 8mm cord there and it was perfect, but they didn't have the quantity I needed. They just had a few meters, and I calculated, I suspect I'm going to need about 30 meters. They offered to order it for me, but it was going to end up being something like 75 euro, which I don't know, I really didn't want to spend. This whole thing was like 25 euro or something like that. It's thinner than I want it to be, but it is the right color, or at least the color that I wanted. I think it looks kind of cool. If it's too thin, I might just double it up because this is 100 meters. My main concern here is that they're all slightly different sizes. All the holes are slightly different sizes. I don't know how it's going to look visually in the end. Is having them all together going to make them more uniform? I think right now having them all together makes them look more uniform, but when they're hanging, I'm not so sure. So let's try. I'm just gonna experiment with it a little bit and we see how it looks. What I need to do is find the middle of this, I guess. My crochet brain is telling me I should just make balls. That's what I'm gonna do. I could weigh it, but there's a thing in the middle, so I don't know how to accommodate for that. How on earth am I gonna thread them through with this? Let's just start threading it through and we see. We'll start. And I need to cut that side too. We're just gonna attach more rope as we go. This is silly. This is really silly. This is gonna be the center. And we're gonna cut this much. I'm sure I'm going to need to attach more, but then I can just hide it. Let's try this again. Cute. One down. Oh my God, just finding the end. Oh no. I need to keep these ropes separate, that's my issue. I'm hoping once it gets heavier, oh, it's stuck in my shoe. Once it gets heavier, I'm hoping that it's gonna stabilize. Like once it's held tight, it's stable, but it just keeps wanting to come apart. On second thought, let's start over. Let's start over with thicker rope. Let's just try again. I'm basically out of string and I'm so close to the end, so I don't know if I'm just going to cut it there. I'm supposed to have 9 of these tail beads, but I might just make it 6. I feel like also this is long enough, is it not? I cut it here, and then we have just like a little tail here. He's gonna have a slightly stunted tail, but that's fine. It's gonna look fine. It's gonna look fine. Cute. Now what? I think he's gonna be stuck on my table for a long time. I think he's an immovable object. Am I supposed to move this? No, there's no way. This is gonna fall. Oh my God. What am I gonna do? Who's taller? Me or the lizard? This was an insane project. This was so fun to make. So thank you so much to Jeff Rubio. I'm going to have all of Jeff Rubio's information linked down below in the video description so you can check him out, you can support him. I follow him on Instagram he posts great stuff. You can check out, I'll link somewhere, the playlist for all of these Steel Like an Artist videos if you're enjoying these projects. So thank you guys for watching, allowing me to make these projects. This is just really cool. Also, thank you so much for 100,000 subscribers. That's a huge milestone. I'm gonna get one of those plaques that YouTube gives out, which is pretty freaking cool, I think. So yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye, friends.